thing that people say, which is no Iranian is Muslim and no Muslim is Iranian. So basically, this belief, by not everybody believes this in Iran, but the idea is that if you're a Muslim, then you're not an Iranian. Right? You can't be both at the same time, right? And many people have continue to have that belief, and the massacre of early January has convinced more people that that's true. Like I expect once the Islamic Republic is gone, if you're a Muslim, if you're wearing a job, if you're praying, and if somebody notices, you could expect to somebody to tell you like, still, like, are you like, how even after that massacre you're still a Muslim? Like, how anti-Iranian can you be that you after the massacre, like, especially given that after the massacre so many older people in Iran that their children or their grandchildren never expected them to say something like this, they came out and said they're never going to pray again, right? They're never going to pray again. So, in response to the massacre of the Islamic Republic, there are now so many stories from the older generation coming out and saying, okay, that's it. I'm not a Muslim. I don't want to do anything with Islam anymore, right? And people, even people from older generations, swearing against the holiest. So, given that we have reports like this, now a lot of people expect, like, okay, if my grandma is now anti-Islam, then there's no excuse for anybody to continue to be Muslim. So what's your excuse? Even my grandma is now anti-Islamic after that massacre. So the level of expectation of people leaving Islam has now, so they're expecting that if you're a Muslim, people are like, what the hell is wrong with you? How could you still be Muslim after what just happened, right? And the only thing that, so I had a debate with somebody regarding this. The only thing that we could mention to for people to be more tolerant is remind them the Muslims who were participating in the revolution, especially this woman named Fatima Sepehri, which Iranians really celebrate as part of the revolution, who's being very much mistreated by the Islamic Republic, and she's in prison and extremely mistreated, and reminding people, and she wears the full chador, reminding people that she's on our side and she's part of the revolution, is the only way that some people get convinced that, okay, maybe, like, maybe not all Muslims. Okay, again, guys, I say this as somebody who's very aggressively anti-Islamic. I'm just saying that, like, here's how we know Islam is in a very, very bad situation right now in Iran, given that even everybody, when they asking about Islam in Iran, they ask about what's going to happen to Muslims after the Islamic Republic, right? I mean, you wouldn't ask that in a country where it's supposed to be a Muslim majority, right? Like, oh my God, what about Muslims? Like, everybody knows how anti-Islamic Iran has turned. The fact that they're worried about Muslims shows how anti-Islamic Iran has become. Where people are like, okay, what are we going to do to protect the Muslims after the Islamic Republic? So this is an admission regarding the mass exodus out of Islam from the Iranian people. So that's one conversation that we were having. I think I've spoken for too long, so I'm gonna there's two other conversations that I could have with regards to the free speech and in Iran, and whether the discussion regarding whether it should be legal or illegal according to the Iranian peoples to insult stuff like the book, the Shahnameh, or national symbols, or Deraf Shikaviani, or all of the other Zoroastrian symbols that now Iranian people understand as to be their national symbols, whether Iranian people think that they should be legal or illegal. That's one conversation I want to have with you guys if you're interested. And another conversation that I could have is regarding the really heated conversations that we have, also regarding the continuation of the anti-Islamic war beyond Iran's borders, right? So I'm actually a major advocate for this, that Iran is just the first step, right? And I know Goldie disagrees with me on this. I think Iranians, yeah, because Goldie says like we should be like keeping it in Iran, right? I think that Iran should be the first step when it comes to the Islamic liberation of the entire region and eventually the rest of the world, right? And I think that Iran could be the base of operations for anti-Islamic activities. So if you want to talk about that, I could also touch on that once we go through some people. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go to the next person. Alex,
Armin,
you
down in.
yeah,
Oh,
go
go
on.
ahead.
No, I just wanted Alex to close his mic because we're getting a lot of background noise. If
So
he's
if you
nice.
can
Thank
check
you,
the
Alex.
chat,
Yeah,
please. I have
yeah.
pasted a question that someone has privately asked down in chat. And then we have Denny.
All right, let me copy and paste this because I'm not allowed to open this chat. You told me, BT, so I'm gonna copy it from here and then maybe post it on here. Here, one second. All right, could you clarify the difference between Saltanat Talab and Padishahi? Pahlavi dynasty was constitutional monarchy anyways. Are they talking about the changes that Muhammad Reza Shah made to the constitution? I do not understand what people are fighting over. Okay, so technically, they both are supposed to mean the same thing, right? So Padishahi means monarchy in Persian. Sultanate means monarchy in Arabic, right? However, the word sultanate refers to solte, which is like is like too aggressive. It's like dominant. It's like something that is supposed to. It sounds tyrannical, right? The word padishahi, which is a Persian word, is a lot more friendly, you know what I mean, than the word sultanate, right? So even though they technically mean the same thing, but one is in Arabic, the other one is in Persian, given how monarchists refer to themselves as Padishah Khan and anti monarchists refer to the monarchists as Saltanat Talab, it has now become common for us to recognize who is against us based on how they refer to the monarchists. So technically, they mean the same thing, but they used by different groups of people. So I don't know if that answers that. I don't know if that answers the question for the first part of the question. I don't know who asked it. Like, are they satisfied with this, or do they have? Is it still clear this part or not? So
Yes, they are satisfied.
okay. So that's the first part. Let me read the second part. Pahlavi dynasty was constitutional monarchy, anyways. Are they talking about the changes that Muhammad Reza Shah made? No, they consider both Muhammad Reza Shah to be Sultanate and what's coming by Prince Reza Pahlavi to also be Sultanate. I do not understand what people are fighting over. So the wording is they're not fighting over Padishahi versus Sultanate. Okay, they're fighting over wanting monarchy or not wanting monarchy. Like, so they're anti-monarchist. So it's not that they're fighting over the wording. It's just that the wording shows that they are against us. By the way, I just want to make it clear. I'm not a monarchist. Okay, when I say against us, because I consider anti-monarchists to be our enemy, even though I'm not a monarchist myself, right? Because I like the monarchists, I defend the monarchists, I consider the monarchists to be under are out. So the main difference maker for me is not whether you're a monarchist or not a monarchist. The main difference maker is whether you support Princess of Pahlavi's leadership, his team, and the four principles. Okay, so if you accept Princess of Pahlavi as the leader and his team and his transitional plan and the four principles by Princess of Pahlavi, which is the border integrity, democracy, secularism, and equal individual rights before the law. These are the four principles. If you agree with this, then you're on our side, whether you're a monarchist or not, right? But anti-monarchists, even though I'm not a monarchist, anti-monarchists are against everything against Pahlavi and his team, right? So I defend. So as a non-monarchist myself, I see I'm on the same side of the monarchists in this revolution with the leadership of Princess of Pahlavi, and I consider anti-monarchists to be the enemy, not because I'm a monarchist, but because the anti-monarchists are also the enemy of Princess of Pahlavi. So that's how, and also, and the enemy of the Iranian people and Iran as a whole. So that's the explanation. All right.
Thank you, Armin. So next we have Danny.
Yeah.
So first, I just wanted to remind you about what Goldie said at the end of the stream that you said you'd tell us about. But that's your update to share.
Oh, so
Like
Goldie
right
said
before
something
you,
at the end of.
yeah,
Yeah.
right before you joined the
Okay.
discussion group.
Okay. Tell me, what did she say?
She said that she might join like this week, I think. I
Yes,
didn't.
guys, Goldie might join us. Goldie might join this discussion group this week. Okay, so I need you guys
Oh my
to
God.
be very good, be at your best behavior. I'm looking at you, Steph and Alex.
Ah, la, 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 la.
Um, okay, okay. I know you guys open your mics at really in the middle of conversations, so just want to. Oh, and Daniel as well. Is he here? Okay, okay. So,
Sorry,
guys,
I'll
Redefine
try to
from
be quiet.
Israelis.
yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So,
Otherwise,
guys, please don't embarrass me.
Next on the
I
list, we
wanted
have.
to. Sorry, I
Oh, go
wanted
ahead.
to keep asking about something. So about Muslims in Iran. So to me, as an atheist, there's a distinction between does belief in this religion cause good things, and does this religion describe things that are actually true about the real world. So to play some devil's advocate on behalf of Muslims in Iran, maybe they can claim that they don't take their religion that seriously, and they don't believe that Khomeinism is the right interpretation of Islam, and they just want to go on without bothering anybody with some extremely benign interpretation. So I'm also extremely against Islam, but I have some sympathy for an argument along those lines, and my main concern is that propagating Islam at all guarantees that people will interpret it in a more radical way just by reading the texts.
Okay. So, this is the argument that I have with Muslims inside Iran that works almost every time. They not only they accept it, they become really good friends with me, and they're like, okay. They were like, okay, this is good, this is what I like as well. And I actually managed to convince Mehdi Nasiri, who is one of the most important religious Muslims, who used to be the main propagandist for Khamenei himself. Okay, and I just had a show with him, and I did told him all of this, and he was convinced by them. And like, he said, I have no problem if this is being anti, if what you're doing represents, if all anti-Islam activists are like you, I have no problem with anti-Islam activists. Because his position was like, you guys could basically leave Islam, but why do you have to attack Islam? But now he's like, okay, fair, attack Islam all you want. Okay, so my point is to them that what I want for Muslims after the Islamic Republic is not just the ability to be Muslim. Okay. I am a free speech advocate, and I think that they should have the freedom to invite people to Islam. They should have that freedom, right? And not only that, as an Iranian citizen, they should expect safety and security from our future government, and they should be treated like every other citizen. And any other citizen, if anybody wants to come harm them or mistreat them or threaten them because they're Muslim, it is the responsibility of our state to come give them full protection. And me, as an anti as somebody who's anti-Islam but also is a free speech advocate, I expect my state to protect Muslims against harm for being Muslims, even though I'm extremely anti-Islamic. So I say, how does that sound? Do you think that's fair? They say, like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds fair. So for first, by the way, this is a trap. Okay. I get them on board that this is a good thing. Okay. So once they accept that this is a good thing, because I don't tell them what I want from my state before I tell them this, because they have to first admit that this is a good situation for them to be in, right? Say like, so no, secularism, there is no Islamic government, there is no mosque being there, there's no religious propaganda being spread by the government, but you get to be a Muslim, you get to teach Islam, you get to advocate Islam, you get to raise your own money, build your own mosque, whatever you want, pray, fast, whatever you want to do as a Muslim. Nobody should harm you. And you can even have your Ashura ceremonies if you want, as long as you keep the noise down and you don't get noise complaints. You could even do that. Okay. And that sounds fair. It's fair, fair. Okay. There are many people who say are Muslim Iranians who are against the regime. They say, like, hey, in the future of Iran, a free Iran, everybody should keep their religion into their own private house and not talk about their religion in the public sphere. And they're Muslim and they're saying this. I'm like saying, hey, look, as an anti-Islamic person, I'm going further than them. They say keep Islam into your own house. I'm saying no. You should be able to come into the park and talk about Islam, hand out power. The Muslims who are anti-Islamic Republic, they're saying after we free Iran, we will keep Islam into our home. Me as a free speech advocate, I'm saying you should be able to be free to come out and advocate for Islam in the park and hand out pamphlets to people to bring them back to Islam. I think you should be able to do that. So, like, look, I'm actually more generous than the Muslim political activists, given that I'm anti-Islamic. So this is good, right? They're like, okay, yeah, that's really good. And then here's the trap. They're like, okay, if you are free to advocate for Islam, then do you agree that it's only fair that I get to advocate against Islam? Right? And when I get to this part, they usually say yes. Okay. And especially given that I gave them all of those brownie points, all of those, privileges and rights, right? Because when their experience is when they talk to an anti-Islam advocate, if they're like, oh my god, you're gonna do this, we're gonna destroy you, we're gonna come for you, you're not gonna be able to do this and that, like, oh my god, they're gonna be hunting us down, they're gonna be taking our hijab off with force, they're going to not let us pray, not let us fast. So you first come and say, you give them the good parts. You tell them that they will be even more secure. They will be even more secure under a secular Iran. Muslims will be protected even more than under the Islamic Republic. And they will be able to do all of the Islamic things that they want, whatever Islamic thing they want. So you give them all the good parts, and the only thing you ask for in return is that I should, like, if you can advocate for Islam, it's only fair for me to speak against it. So you get them, and then you're gonna get into a debate because they know that I'm also in favor of being able to insult and ridicule Islam. But that's the next discussion. I'm not gonna tell you how I get them on board with that as well, which is very challenging. But I have been successful with that with some Muslims, to get them even on board with, okay, it should be free to insult Islam. It's very challenging, but I just wanted to give you the first step on how I get them on board in being able to speak against Islam in the future of Iran. That's if you're interested, I could tell you how I go with the insulting and ridiculing as well.
I'm very interested, but I wanted to give the floor to some other people. And also, Alex had a quick comment about this.
I guess now it's time to
Okay.
talk.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead, Alex.
Tusi actually talked about this, and he calls this form of Islamism, which is basically an
There is
extreme
no
form of,
there is no form of Islam and Islamism are the same thing.
or one is more radical than another. One is like more
No,
strict.
no, that's not true. Islam and Islamism are the same thing. There is no difference between Islam and Islam. There is a difference between a Muslim and an Islamist, okay? Because some Muslims want Islam in politics and some of them don't. But Islam as a religion is completely political to its core. It is within Islam is political from its DNA. So there is no difference between Islam and Islamism. When it comes
Yeah.
to individuals, there is a difference between a Muslim and an Islamist. But when it comes to the religion itself, there is no difference because Islam is purely political.
And I would bet you they would be unwilling to rewrite their holy book, Quran, to fix this part.
I mean, if you're willing to rewrite the Quran, then you're not a Muslim anymore.
Yeah, so they're not going to
If
be
you come
willing
out
to
and
do that.
say that I want to rewrite the Quran, immediately with it, like, you immediately have left Islam.
Yep. I think belief in the perfection of the Quran to Islam is like a belief in Jesus being the Son of God to Christianity. It's just you can't do that.
Yeah, Danny, actually, something a point that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people think Allah is like Jesus, and the Quran is like the Bible. It's actually the other way around. Okay, so in Islam, the equivalent to Jesus is the Quran, not Allah, and the equivalent to Allah is the Bible.
Jeffrey, why don't you go ahead and chime in on this, please?
Yeah, just to elaborate again on Armin's point, it's very apt. There's a huge difference between Islam, the belief system, and all members of the Alman breed, the global community that identifies as being Muslim. Now, that being said, so people are like, well, what if you interpret things differently? Other than a very brief time period during the Mutazilite era, applying reason or I'm always mispronounce it Yahad, is considered a primary heretical act. If you modify or try to change the Quran prior to the ninth century or after the ninth century, it qualifies you for death in Islamic jurisprudence, right? In Sharia law, how Islam doctrinally applies its belief system. And like the idea, it's amazing you brought that up, Armin. Like some people, predominantly in the West, right, due to institutional capture of our universities being leftist only clubs and leftist bullshit, like it's like this moral equivalency. Well, Muhammad is the same as Yahshua Mashiach, and the Quran is the same as the Bible. No, they're not. No, they're not. Not doctrinally, not historically, not at all. Well, but there's no but. There's no but, right? So a couple of myths, right? Oh, there is peaceful surahs in the Quran. That must mean Islam is peaceful. First off, the translation, that's a mistranslation. That's not peace surah. Read the Meccan surahs. That's word surah, not the same as peace. Even if there were peace surahs in the Quran, because Islam doctrine, how Islam doctrinally categorizes the Quran and or applies said like surahs via the law of abrogation based on the idea of progressive revelation, meaning Muhammad, even if he existed, because there's no third party corroboratory evidence, like say like the existence of Yahshua Mashiach via Roman documents, he was going up to a cave and having delusions of grandeur and thought he was giving the all this like amazing wisdom with the ultimate wisdom, alleged ultimate wisdom at the end. Meaning that all of the surahs that are temporally located, meaning in time in the Quran, abrogate, replace, and nullify the ones that came before it. Why is that, important? Because the sword or war verses, the Medinan surahs, are temporally located later on in the Quran. So even if there were peace surahs, which there isn't, it doesn't make any difference. That being said, Western leftists that pushed all this moral equivalency, very much from Soviet active measures. This is the same stupid shit that leftist freaks pushed during the Red Black Alliance to sit there and delegitimize the Shah and then set it up so that those crazies could take down the Shah. That's the same stupid shit. It's the same stupid shit that's spewed by members of the Red Green Alliance today. This is like leftists who try to sit there and do all this mental gymnastics, right? Like, oh, well, but Islam's like, they're queers for Palestine. How can you possibly be queers for Hamas? They want you all dead. I mean, outside of it's in a luxury belief because you live in the West and are not directly like going to directly suffer that racial, cultural, national, or personal masochistic belief system, right? I mean, how do you logically square that circle? Right? How do they do it? They sit there and redefine Islam in a manner that Islam itself says you cannot do. Other than the ninth century, under the Mutazilite reign, reign, which was like disproportionately Greeks and Persians that played a role in that very brief time period where reason could even be superficially applied to the Quran. Like it's the same shit that I hear when it comes to Mandela, right? Like for no, there's no question the apartheid government in South Africa was shitty, absolutely ruthless fuckers, right? They did horrible shit, and so, and it's true, Mandela fought against the apartheid regime. That's true. That doesn't make Mandela de facto good. I mean, Mandela was an overt asset for the KGB and did despicable shit all throughout the African peninsula or the continent of Africa. Just look up Operation Mayibuye and all the terrorist attacks like the Church Street bombing and all the rest of it that disproportionately killed, I'm going somewhere with this, disproportionately killed black women and children. Well, what do you hear the left say? Oh, Mandela, he was like South Africa's, like Martin Luther King. No, not even close. That bullshit moral equivalence. Oh my God. I'm sorry, Armin. I get just as probably as angry as you do with this nonsense. I mean, doesn't it drive you apeshit when these people try to push that stuff? Well, it depends on how you interpret the Quran. The Islam says you can't do that. So, I mean, where do you go from there? It's that kind of intellectual dishonesty and lack of moral clarity that erodes policy that needs to be implemented so we can minimize the absolute abuse and abject horror that is visited upon any number of vulnerable populations by Islamic fundamentalist entities, whether they're the mullah regime or terrorists or whatever. And so the reason I get upset is because that lack of moral clarity is measured in people's lives. And I don't know how the hell you don't flip out, Armin. I don't know how you do it, dude. Is it a big bag of weed or you drinking every day? I don't know what it is. I mean, you like all this shit going on in Iran, and somehow you like still. I told my wife I call you like Persian Elmo, right? Because I just want to tickle you. I just anyway. I'm gonna stop now.
Brave.
All right. No, I mean,
I
I've
think you
debated.
needed that. I think you really needed that.
Yeah, yeah, you need to get that out of your system. Yeah. I mean, I debated Muslims for more than a decade now, and I've heard the most, you won't believe the types of arguments I've heard. I've debated many mullahs, many so called philosophers of Islamic studies. So, honestly, like when you guys hear some ridiculous nonsense, it's nothing compared to what, like, yeah, I mean, I'm actually fascinated by them, by the pro-Islamic arguments. And the way I don't get angry anymore is, I mean, when I get angry is because I want to get angry, because I feel like I enjoy sometimes like getting angry, so it's completely under my control when I want to get angry, and I get angry. But when I don't get angry, because it doesn't make sense to get angry because you're disarming somebody by calmly listening to them, I treat them like a, I don't know, like a virus that I'm studying or something. I think like a scientist who is basically treating, I don't know, cancer is not going to lose his shit like like looking at a tumor and like start swearing at it, right? I think they're actually interested in the subject that they're studying. So I look at them at the subject of study and the way that they think. Instead of me getting angry with it, I feel like I'm studying something. I'm trying to understand how the pro-Islamic arguments evolve and what their strategies are, and I basically look at it as an observer. And when I'm studying it, I get less angry from it. That's the way I try to think about it.
A lot
I
of
do
us been
think
doing it
it's,
for years as well. So like I don't know how about you, Armin, but at the start, because I've been getting like death threats and stuff from Muslims since I was like 12. Um, but at the start, I would get really angry, and sometimes I would just feel despair and just go on a crash out. And we all have crash outs sometimes, but it's like with time and
yeah.
breathing and taking breaks whenever you can. And again,
I
looking for, like Armin said, to taking like a stand from the outside as an observer, that helps.
Yes. I usually get more angry with people that need to know better. Honestly, I shouldn't say this, but when somebody says I'm a Muslim, I feel like, oh, you're special. Like I kind of like feel like you're a special person, so I should be less angry with you because you're kind of like a mental handicap or something. So I treat you like I basically, if somebody is like usually on the right side of things and is on our side and has good position, and they all of a sudden have a shit take, they're usually like, "What the fuck?" But if you're a Muslim, for example, and you have shit takes, I'm like, "Well, I mean, you're Muslim, like, okay, like,
I
like, what
had
should
a
I do?"
conversation with someone that went great for 2 hours, and then started, and then like it was like so logical and nice, and then it's like on the side, yeah, but there's the black magic Jewish cult that controls the world.
By the way, guys, like one of the most one debate that I just recently had on the Persian side was like, if you want to talk about frustrating arguments, I was debating. It was recorded and we just released it on our Persian channel. I was debating somebody that came up and was defending the Islamic Republic regarding the killing, more 40,000 and more Iranian people, and he was basically trying to argue why that was justified, why every state has the right to defend itself when they're trying to topple it. And I was arguing that. So if you think, right? So, and by the way, it went very well in my favor. Like I completely destroyed him, but he was really frustrated with me. Um, but yeah, this is what I go through. imagine, imagine, imagine after experiencing the worst strategy in the history of your country, having to debate somebody who's trying to justify it, like having to debating that person for an hour straight, and yeah,
I'm sure most of us can't.
tolerating his nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to imagine it. We know it very well. Finally, on the list, we have Cat Lady.
Yes, finally. So actually, there is like this viral video right now of this YouTuber Bailey something. I don't know. She's like crying, and like she's has like what the situation in America is so bad right now, and she has some points, I guess. Some others that I don't agree on, whatever. But she says, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" and cries, and it's very viral right now. And was going through the comments, and people say, "Oh yeah, let's unite together to fight the Jews." And I'm like, "Good luck. You will settle. Your life is going to be better." It's like, even if someone says, as an Armenian, and you are also Armenian, we should together fight against Zionists. What can I say? People are hopeless.
Good luck, have fun. Like,
Yeah, yeah, bright future. Also, I had a question, Armin, but maybe it's too late now. I wanted to ask you, why are you not a monarchist?
Okay. Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so, all right, why am I not a monarchist? Okay, so, by the way, Steph also raised her hand, so I think like let's after that go to Steph.
Sorry.
Um,
Sorry.
so there is, when it comes to being a monarchist or not being a monarchist, there's two different areas, right? So one, philosophically, like on paper, in theory, what system do you think works better? And then another question is in practice, in the reality that you're dealing with right now, given the environment that you're in now, what do you think works best, right? So let me tell you, this is a little bit strategic from my perspective, right? When we have the referendum, I will vote for monarchy, right? Not because philosophically I'm in favor of monarchy, but because given the conditions that we are in Iran right now, all the Republicans, all the people, well, not all the people, all the people who are anti-Iran, all the MEK people, the Marxists, the reformers, the Mossadegis, they have picked up the Republican flag, right? So I don't, even though I'm a Republican, I don't want to join their side. There are some Republicans who support Prince Reza Pahlavi, who are proper patriots, who don't support all of those shit ideas. But given how all of the shit ideas that has destroyed our country has grouped under the Republican flag, there is no saving that branding. You know what I mean? So I, imagine if you're a women rights activist that refuses to call herself a feminist because of all the woke nonsense that you're like, okay,
I
you know
just
what,
want to
I'm not
make
going to call
sure
myself
that you know
something
that
like.
it's like not yet the answer to my question, right? You get to that?
I understand that. Yeah, I understand. I'm moving towards it, right? So I'm just telling you strategically, I'm going to vote monarchist, even though I'm not a monarchist, because I think we need to vote for monarchism to keep all of these people out, right? On So I'm voting strategically based on the reality on the ground, right? On paper, individually, I don't see, okay, and like in the worlds of theory, in a vacuum, I don't see a necessity for a king, right? But somebody might say, Armin, well, okay, but you don't live on paper. In the real world, you're going to vote for monarchy, so you are technically a monarchist, right? So there's the reason, and here's where it comes strategic. So technically, I could call myself a monarchist because I'm going to vote for monarchy, or I could call myself a Republican because, in the vacuum, on theory and paper, I don't see the necessary for having a king, and I think that a republic without a monarch could work as effectively in paper, not because of the, not in Iran right now, given the conditions that we're dealing with in Iran right now. I think a monarchy would work better, given that reason that I give you and a couple other reasons. But here's how I'm being a bit sneaky, okay? I've been not a monarchist for a very long time, and I started supporting Princess Pahlavi, right? And some people close to Princess Pahlavi's team told me that Princess Pahlavi needs, not like, it's good to have non-monarchist supporters of Princess Pahlavi, right? So me saying, deciding that to categorize myself as a monarchist would just add to the already gazillion monarchists who support Princess Pahlavi, right? What we need to advertise is the broader base that Princess Pahlavi has when it comes to supporters beyond monarchists, right? So given that I philosophically could categorize myself as a Republican and a monarchist, it makes sense that I go with that definition and I keep presenting myself and as a non-monarchist who is a supporter of Princess Pahlavi, so my platform could be used as a way to demonstrate the broader base of support that Princess Pahlavi has.
I
Okay.
want to know specific. I know all of that, and I think it's smart. It also can give like permission and show like, yeah, not all of whoever supports the Shah is like super like wants a king and everything. But my question is, why do you, in the basic idea, why do you think that monarchy is not good? Because you said it somewhat because you think it will be effective without a king, right? That's a good answer.
Yeah. So for me, okay. So let me tell you, I think that there's, when it comes to our future government, there's the structure of the government, and then there's the content of the government. Okay, so I think the values of the government are more important than when it comes to the structure. The main priority is for it to be represent the sovereignty belonging to the people.